Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Health Wire Show. I'm joined today by Jared Taylor, who is a good friend, founder, and host of Slice of Healthcare, kind of healthcare podcast and platform for helping brands get in front of the people making the magic happen in our industry. Jared, it's great to have you here today.
Jason, great to be on the show. We'll definitely have to have you on and reciprocate here, and people can hear your story after. Really appreciate you having me.
Awesome, and anytime. For my money, Slice of Healthcare is one of the best healthcare podcasts out there, in main part because you're on one side of the mic asking some awesome interview questions, and you really strip away kind of the podcast host mask and have some really human conversations. What's the secret there that lets you kind of get some answers out of your guests that might not be seen on kind of the more mainstream platforms where they're really buttoned up?
I think it was just like I didn't come from the media side of things. I just always had an interest in like just talking to people, and I always kind of viewed the conversations on the podcast as like a casual coffee shop conversation is what I usually tell people, right? If I was going to coffee with someone for the first time and I was genuinely interested about them and their business, what would I ask them? I
Mhm.
think that's why it seems fairly casual, and I think sometimes when it's really casual, you can strip away any like anxiety or any maybe structured talk from the guests. It's just always something I've decided to make it super casual.
Cool. Well, it's great to give you a chance at the other side of the microphone today.
Yeah.
When you're lining up guests for the show, is there any trends? Do you try to follow a trend and get companies on that are kind of moving and shaking right now, or how do you structure who you bring on the show?
You know, I actually like how I used to bring guests on the show more than how I do it now. And
Mm,
and you're going to see a shift that will probably go back to more of this. I always picked every guest based on companies that I was interested in. And I would always put a hat on like, if I was investing in these companies, who would I actually want to talk with, bring on? What areas of healthcare were they actually solving that I thought were critical? Um, and that's who I would go out and pick and reach out. Now they wouldn't always answer in the early days, right? And then they started answering a little bit more.
mm,
Now, we get, and I'm sure you deal with the same stuff, is you have all the PR firms that are just, some are amazing, but some just keep pushing certain guests, and occasionally they'll push a really good guest. But I would say the only downside to that strategy is, or the positive, I guess, is you don't have to do as much work to get the guests. They're already lining it up. The negative is they might be going on my show, your show, four other shows at the same time, and then it's fine to spread it out, but when they're going on everyone's show. So like now it's mainly been from the PR teams pushing to us, and then we'll select from there. But I want to go back to where I actually sit down and say, all right, if I'm investing in companies, who do I want to talk with right now, and go that way again.
right. That's a good mentality to have, and I guess that's it speaks in the results. When you're prepping for these interviews, do you like having a huge list of questions in front of you, or do you kind of shoot from the hip and just let the conversation steer where the conversation wants to steer?
Typically, kind of steer where the conversation wants to steer. What I
Mhm.
will do is I try to have maybe five or six either sentences or just even one word to trigger past research, right? So that I
Mhm.
can just kind of bring up that thought. But I've done episodes where I have a bunch of questions in front of me, and then I don't know if you feel the same way when you're doing episodes. Sometimes you get in a trap, even when you're like trying to be casual. It's so hard to, am I working in this question? And is it going to seem like I wasn't listening to them because I'm trying to work in a question to something that they didn't maybe answer?
Right.
So I try to definitely do like kind of shoot from the hip and just do more casual. We do edit things. So if I ask someone something and they're like, I don't like that answer, I don't like that question, then we can tweak it if we need to.
Mhm.
But yeah, typically it's very casual.
You have a pretty rapid clip of interviews coming out on top of all of the other stuff that you're doing in the not only the healthcare space, but with Slice of Media, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, the kind of umbrella company that houses Slice of a ton of different verticals, mostly I think all B2B, so construction, agriculture, finance. Is it just you working on these? Do you edit your own videos? What's kind of the team look like that's making all this happen?
So there's about three of us right now. And then basically everyone handles a particular task. I'll do any outreach for building relationships with businesses and kind of covering the space. I want to do more of that. I don't think I do like one of the things I've always really admired about what you've been doing is your coverage of on a weekly basis of what's happening in the space is great. Um, that's your thing. That's not something that I want to necessarily do, but I would like to start doing more of like the profiles that I used to do on companies and things like that. Maybe get back into that. But yeah, we have someone that handles like editing. I'll
Mm,
still edit a lot because, as you know, like sometimes when you're editing it yourself, how do you expect someone else to pick like all the best clips that you actually want? They weren't there, right, originally.
right.
Um, but what we really have done a great job at is we built 30 GPTs that basically mimic every part of like research or um, question development based on like past questions that we've either asked or that they've been asked in the past. Um, and then what we're doing now is turning those into particular agents so that we can actually direct research to, if we want to give the agent a name, real name, we
Mm,
can do that. And that's kind of been the focus that we've taken, and that's how we've been able to start to do these other verticals that you talk about.
mm,
Particularly very very bullish right now on construction,
nice.
and I would also say like construction, real estate. And just anything in the fintech space right now in particular. But there's some cool stuff coming out with retail. And then also, I would also say agriculture, surprisingly, which it's been really cool for me to learn about that. But
Nice.
yeah, we've built some really good systems.
Very cool. As you started looking to new verticals, what was kind of the logic on this one qualifies, this one doesn't qualify for kind of the slice model within each of these different industries?
Look for B2B industries that were having pretty steady
Yeah.
growth,
Mm,
that maybe had some content out there, but nothing that was super polished or consistent. Um, you know, we definitely need to get better at putting out more content across the other verticals. Healthcare has always kind of been a driver.
mm,
Uh, but I think we're getting a lot better with that. We built a ton of relationships in the other spaces now, which is obviously super important for us to do more there. Last year was the first year I decided to go to non-healthcare conferences, and um, it's really cool because when you go to Vibe, when you go to Health, you see these mega conferences and how they operate and how it's like really well put together. Um, and these other industries have the same thing. They have those types of big events too that are doing really well in the small ones. So it's been a cool learning experience. It's definitely increased the travel, but yeah, just who's growing, who could
mm.
use some cool coverage and some podcasts and short videos, and then that's usually how we pick them.
Nice. And we were talking a bit before the cameras got rolling. You said you made it out to how many conferences last year or this year? How many are you expecting to attend?
Oh, it's like in the, what was it like 20, 25? I think even close to 30 if you count some of the smaller ones.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that again, as I told you though. It's it can be a lot. But I try to bunch them in. It's something kind of underrated that I don't think a lot of events maybe do is it's really nice when I know the big events don't like when other events piggyback,
Hmm.
right, in a day or two, but it is nice for all of us traveling to have another event that we can also go to while we're in the same area. And I told you, back in March, I had like three events. Um, when I was in Las Vegas, it was HIMSS, it was FinTech Meetup, and then it was the Human X AI conference, like all within like a couple days of each other. So I just stayed there for like about 2 weeks in total, which is way too long for Vegas. No one should ever be in Vegas for 2 weeks unless you live there.
Right. You survived though. Congrats.
I survived. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we don't know if your bank account survived the craps tables, but you survived.
Gambling
That's
one day.
important.
That's it. I did. I only went one day and I didn't lose anything, so I'm good there.
Nice, nice. You made it out. Well, cool. Before you even got into Slice, I was poking around your LinkedIn. You had a career planning startup. You founded Block Health, which went on to be acquired by SteadyMD. Is serial entrepreneur a fair label for you, you think?
I would say so. I've always had an interest in seeing like any type of problem and trying to come up with a solution for it.
Hmm.
Um, if someone drops a piece of gum out of their pocket, it's like I don't just see someone drop a piece of gum out of their pocket. I'm like, why did they drop it out of their pocket? Like, was it not in the right holder? Was it not in and
That's a
I tell
startup
people,
idea right there.
yeah, but that can be like and that's just a dumb example, but like, um, it doesn't matter if anyone says like some sort of problem. I love breaking it down and trying to see like, is there anything there? And I think um, there's even a lot of opportunities now that most people wouldn't build companies in years ago, but because like the cost to like of compute has gone down substantially thanks to, AI and other factors. Um, it's really cool to kind of dissect some of those smaller problems as well. So I would definitely say serial entrepreneur. I think the longest I like in high school, I worked for a retail store for 2 weeks before they didn't renew my contract. I was not a good folder of clothes at the mall,
Oh man.
um, and uh, and then I ended up teaching tennis lessons for a while before I started like my own tennis lesson business, which was cool. Built that up to like 30 clients. It was actually a pretty good business. I mean, in during just the summer months, while I was in like high school and college, that would clear like, I think worst year was like 15K, best year was like 25, 30K. It's like a part-time job, like
Hmm.
teaching tennis. It was not a bad setup while I was in school, helped pay for college. Um, and then, after school, I took a job in investment banking. I lasted 6 months, did not like it, left, went to work in sales for a healthcare consulting company that they had a consulting arm, but then they had a recruiting arm. And I built relationships with hospitals, and that's where I learned about credentialing and staffing and all that stuff. Stayed there for a little under 2 years. Like I think it was only a year and a half. And then ever since then, so I've been like full-time entrepreneur since 22.
Hmm.
Um,
Cool.
and yeah, recently turned 31, so it's really all I've known. Most of my career has been just entrepreneurship.
Well, cool. The healthcare industry is lucky to have you, so I'm glad it panned out here. We recently teamed up on the Top Digital Health Leaders Award, which was a great experience. You really, I got to see you work your magic up close. And what I think made those awards really special is that our communities were the ones that nominated and voted for the eventual honorees, which were 50 of the best movers and shakers as voted upon by their peers in the industry. Um, was there anything about you? You've put on several awards in the past with Slice of Healthcare. Was there anything that surprised you about these awards? I know there was ended up being 7,000 plus votes for the initial list there. What went into making this one so cool? And kind of was there anything that surprised you about these awards?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for agreeing to collaborate on this, and hopefully that's the start of some other cool collaborations between us, which I think would be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Um, Typically, we're like sub 2,000 votes on thing, which I always thought was still a good number. When if you're getting 2,000 votes and there's like 50 people, I don't think that's bad at all. But this one like particularly took off. I think it just shows like how excited this space like sometimes we hear about digital health and like, what's the state of digital health today? And is it, while there's been a lot of advancements, right? It's still a different world than during the pandemic, the digital health space.
Mhm.
But when you see everyone come together and get excited and kind of promoting and shouting out their teammates and voting, what really, I guess what surprised me about this one was just like I expected us to do pretty well, especially because we were collaborating on this. I didn't expect that turnout on this.
Mhm.
Um, and then I told you the other piece was decided to run a little fun side experiment of a sub page, creating a sub page at 0 followers to see what we could get the engagement up to.
Mhm.
Um, and that sub page that started at 0, the thing that surprised me the most was that it like in the whole month from like nominations or to voting to selection based on the votes,
Mhm.
um, that page generated about 500 followers from 0. and with 500 followers, which didn't have 500 followers the whole time, beat out like Becker's Healthcare's LinkedIn page, Modern Healthcare. If you combine them together in overall engagements, and if you put them together,
So
they're at
awesome.
like several million followers, right?
Right.
So that surprised me the most.
Right. I think the heart really shines through. Like you put in the work, you made some awesome graphics for each of the honorees, and every day there was a new, you were highlighting one of the nominees, highlighting everyone and having them vote. It was fantastic to watch. So shout out to you for putting in the elbow
Appreciate
grease
that.
on
Yeah,
that.
no, thanks for your collaboration, man. That was a lot of fun. I look forward to hopefully doing more of those with you because I think a lot of people like the fact that we did something together too and kind of pushed it out. And if we can, mix in some of those content
Mhm.
opportunities and awards throughout the year, I think people will get excited.
Well, looking forward to seeing you at Health later in the
Likewise.
year. Always great to see you in person. Outside of the event space, what are you excited about with Slice of Healthcare? Like, I know you recently overhauled your sites. They're looking fantastic. What are you spending a lot of your energy on or pumped to kind of add to the docket, lean in on throughout the rest of the year and going forward?
Yeah. Uh, I would say product, like we built a custom content management system that allows us to power all 10 of the sites right now from one platform.
Nice.
It's not WordPress, it's not Webflow. Those are obviously great sites. That's what we had before. That was always a challenge for us, though. We said if we were gonna maybe do some of these other ones, like what if it was ever 100, right? How do you manage that? That becomes a lot more difficult. Like, is it multi-tenant, that where we can just invite everyone to be able to like put some content in? So that was a big challenge that we've recently succeeded in resolving. But it's really around product, and I don't know, always continuing to find like I said, I love that, when you put out these posts and your newsletter is great. Um, I think we all have our thing, and for the longest time, it's been doing probably a lot of these podcast episodes. At one point, it was like 5 a week that we were putting out.
Mhm.
Um, I think you'll see us like probably do even more short form content. I've been having a lot of fun with that lately, but I'd say more regarding like product platform. You mentioned we updated the site. We did basically just the building blocks is available right now. We're starting to roll out a new interface and things like that. So everyone stay tuned for that. I'll be putting out updates on that. But I'd say most of my time, if I'm not doing content, is on actually product.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Jared, it's been great getting to know you a little bit better as we work together on these awards over the last couple of weeks. Any parting thoughts for the Digital Health Wire audience or message you'd
Yeah,
like to get out? Where can they find you?
yeah, just sliceofhealthcare.com. We're gonna have some more. I took off a lot of call to actions over the last couple months. We're bringing a lot of those back. Um, don't spam.
Don't spam.
If you want to work with Jason or me or anyone else in the space, build a relationship with us. We're all pretty nice. Like, but if you're not answered after 4 emails, that's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
Build a human relationship. Be a nice guy. Great note to end it on, Jared. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Appreciate it.
Cheers.